Fair and equitable negotiations. That's the instruction from the president of Iran to the country's foreign minister as he sets out a framework for negotiations with the US over Iran's nuclear program and after the bloody crackdown on nationwide protests last month. The announcement, well, a major turnaround from the president. We're going to talk to Oliver Farry, who joins us now for our International Affairs Desk. Oliver, new talks we're hearing due on Friday in Istanbul. Iran's foreign minister due to sit down with the White House envoy Steve Witkoff. How much of a surprise do you think of these negotiations? Could anything really come out of it?
Well, at first glance, they might seem surprising, especially given Iran has been pretty much preoccupied with cracking down in a fairly brutal fashion on those protests that erupted in late December. But the very fact that Donald Trump did mention the talks in the past week, while also saying he was sending this massive armada to the Persian Gulf, did give the possibility a bit more currency. And as we've seen in recent months, unpredictable as Trump is, there are sometimes patterns to his caprices. As for what we can expect from the talks, well, probably not an awful lot immediately. Trump had three conditions for a resumption of the talks: that there be zero enrichment of uranium in Iran, limits be placed on Tehran's ballistic missile program, and an end to its support for regional proxies such as Hamas, Hezbollah or the Houthis. Tehran is reportedly willing to yield on the enrichment of uranium, but considers the other two conditions non-negotiable. The very fact that we're seeing talks at all on the horizon suggests there has been some give, because just a year ago, in fact, even less than that, just last June, uranium enrichment was a no-go for Iran.
Let's not forget, I mean, there were lengthy talks, weren't there, in the first 6 months of last year. It kind of all fell apart, really, with Israel's attacks on Iran in June.
Yeah, the talks were fairly intensive. There were 5 rounds of them. They began in Oman on April 12th, and they went on till June 9th, when Iran rejected a UN proposal for a deal. And that would have, as I said, required Iran to stop its uranium enrichment and also give up its existing uranium stockpiles. On June the 12th, the International Atomic Energy Agency found that Iran was non-compliant in its nuclear obligations. It accused Tehran of basically not answering questions about its undeclared nuclear materials and activities. The following day, Israel went in. There was a 12-day war, between the two countries. And of course, the United States on June 20th bombed 3 Iranian facilities. Now, this might suggest that Iran's in a weaker position, but Tehran has also said that no nuclear material was present at the site. We also know that satellite imagery released by the US last week indicated that Iran has actually already started rebuilding installations at the Isfahan and Natanz facilities, which the US bombed.
A lot of focus as well on Donald Trump. I mean, during the uprising of a couple of weeks ago, he was saying that he may well attack Iran over that. Now he seems to have shifted that focus to talk a lot more about the nuclear program.
Yeah, I think partly it's because there is leverage in this, and there would be many people within the US security establishment that would be encouraging to do this, and also partly because it's a less risky strategy than intervening in an uprising, which, you know, much as Washington would love to see the end of the Islamic regime, you know, anything could have unforeseen consequences. Trump also has to reckon with Israel, which, as we saw last year, prefers a much more muscular approach. Steve Witkoff is likely to meet Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel today. He'll presumably be trying to win him over to the idea of these talks. I don't think that's going to be particularly successful. Regime change for now is not really Washington's aim in Tehran, and there has been an escalation of international measures over the past week. We saw the European Union putting Iran's Revolutionary Guard on its terrorist list. But as I said earlier, that so-called armada that has been sent to the Persian Gulf is not going to go away just because we're going to have talks now. So we can expect, despite what Masoud Pezeshkian said earlier on, that there should be no threats or unreasonable demands, I think we can expect carrots and sticks to be wielded by Washington in the weeks ahead as the talks proceed.
And of course, we'll be covering all of those talks for you here on France 24, so a lot more on that coming up over the coming days. Oliver, thanks very much. Oliver Farry from our International Affairs Desk there.